Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, we live in hell. That is an objective fact, and if you disagree, then I would point to you the fact that a chain burn has been topping. I can't imagine a more perfect indicator that something's wrong than chain burn ending up as the 5th or 6th best deck. So, we're gonna buckle our buttholes and revisit how and why the monster from 2010 has returned to darken our doorstep once more. So, by looking at the 5 or 6 lists of this god-awful deck that is topped, we've put together this monstrosity. Now, right away you'll notice several pretty serious nombos and more than a couple just flat-out bad cards, but don't worry, I will explain them all to you. First though, let me explain the archetype for the 3 of you without 2 brain cells to rub together, walk you through the complex and difficult playstyle of this 4D chess deck, and of course, give you the card by card. So first, for those who don't know, Chainburn is a deck made playable by a single card, Chain Strike. Often I take a look at the semi-limited list and I think, what the fuck is the point of this thing? Every card on here is just slightly too strong to come to 3, come on. Like, get rid of the list, limit or unban all the cards on it, and then rename semi-limited to Rat Pier Jail. But then I see cards like Chain Strike, and I think, oh no, actually, we'd have all fucking quit this game if it wasn't for Konami's infinite wisdom. This bad boy is single-handedly responsible for more salt than maybe any card ever. It's enabled burn for as long as it's been around, and by combining it with cheap cards that plus you alongside some of the more powerful chain cards like Accumulated Fortune, you can easily follow up 2,000 damage Just Desserts with a 2,400 Chain Strike and end up with just as many cards in your hand as you just burned. Until now, though, the deck's reliance on mediocre draw traps and inability to find the right ratios of Waboku effects has relegated it to fringe playability. However, with some new spicy tech choices, the deck seems poised for a return to the limelight. Now, as far as gameplay goes, well, it's not exactly brain surgery. Draw cards with Pots, Demise, and Balance, fade combat with Waboku and Threatening Roar, and win with Secret Blasts, Barrels, Just Desserts, Ceasefire, and Friends. The exciting part of this deck is the things that have very recently changed. While looking at lists that had recently topped, I was shocked to find they were playing copies of GOAT format All-Star Magician of Faith, whose ability to get spells back routinely draws you another 3 cards, and whose flip effect almost counts as protection, where the only interaction people are packing is Tridents. By maxing out, almost, on draw spells, we're maximizing our chances to find the shit that can be returned off Magician of Faith, and maybe, just maybe, we can play 3 Chain Strikes in one game like Konami can't hold us. So, on to the card by card. First, we have 2 copies of Absolutely Garbage King Backjack. We really don't want to see this guy unless we can immediately bin him with Demise. He clogs us because he's a monster, but his Grave effect is so great in our 24 trap deck that we've at least got to play a couple. Next is 2 copies of Max C, and the C stands for concession to this Special Summon 5 format. Next are 2 waifus, Magician of Faith, which rounds out our monster count at a healthy 6. Afterwards, we have the real heroes of this deck, the spells. 3 Demise, 2 Desires, and 3 Duality will get us there, and our 2 Chain Strikes are okay too, I guess. Next are the traps. Let's start with the damage ones. 3 Secret Barrel, which does 200 damage times the number of cards on your opponent's side of the field and in your opponent's hand. Then 3 Secret Blast, which does 300 times the number of cards only on the field, but it also doubles as blind MST insurance because if your opponent destroys it, it does 1,000 to them. Just Desserts is pretty good when it hits for 1,500, and 2 Ceasefire is exactly the same, except it doesn't count Ojama tokens. 1 copy of Ring of Destruction, aka Konami's Mistake, and 2 copies of Blazing Mirror Force rounds out our damage traps. Next, we have 2 copies of Ojama Trio. This card summons 3 Ojama tokens in defense position to your opponent's side of the field. They cannot be tributed, and when they die, your opponent takes 300 points of damage. Now, these are exclusively to enable our Just Desserts, and hilariously actually constrain a lot of our opponent's plays. It's kind of hard to do the Zodiac combo if 3 of your monster zones are occupied, and Burning Abyss just can't deal with this card, as anyone who played during the BA format can tell you. Unfortunately, we have no way of getting rid of the tokens, really, unless they change them to attack mode and we walk over them with a Magician of Faith or Blazing Mirror Force them. Either way, it's probably still good enough. Next are the Battle Faders, 3 copies of Threatening Roar and 3 copies of Waboku, which are sometimes just draw 1 card and sometimes set up a game-winning chain. Finally, we have 2 copies of Balance of Judgement, which is a weird new include. If you've ever played Hearthstone, it's kind of like Divine Favor. If you have less cards on your board and hand combined than your opponent has on board, you draw the difference, which is occasionally like 4, but also it's occasionally 0, so we're playing 2. Before we get to the games, however, I need to stress that this specific extra deck is imperative. I really would not play the deck without these exact 15 cards. 3 copies of Minerva, 3 copies of Giant Hand. Make sure you are playing the prize card version. It will not work without it. 3 copies of Utopia Kaiser, 3 Dvorak, and 3 Blood... Actually, 3 Blood Mephisto actually might be pretty good in this deck, but we have no way of making him. Anyway, let's jump into the games and see what happens. Our first match is up against Raid Raptor, and I mean that in every sense of the word because our opponent's name is literally Raid Raptor. Or maybe they are a Raid Raptor. Some kind of bird computer. Unfortunately, naming yourself Raid Raptor does not cause you to brick less. As you can see, he's drawn basically every rank-up magic in his deck, along with a Raid Raptor Readiness and a Nest. He lacks a monster, but maybe if he finds one, he could get something going. We've drawn okay. 2 Threatening Roar is not great, but we do have the Ojama Trio and the Just Desserts, which is a sizable amount of damage alongside a Secret Barrel. We're maybe 1 or 2 cards off from lethal, I'm thinking right now. So we're going to go ahead and set 4, pass, leave this Threatening Roar in our hand. No use in clogging up our 5th space when we already have a Threatening Roar set, and it is chainable. At end step, we'll flip up this Ojama Trio in order to constrain his plays a little bit, then set the Secret Barrel we draw, just preparing for the inevitable. He's going to go ahead and activate Allure and banish this Raid Raptor. At this point, I am sure he's playing Raid Raptors and not actually just trolling me with his name. He sets a Solemn Strike, which is supremely bad against us. Unfortunately, Raid Raptor Readiness is maybe one of the best cards in the game against Chainburn. We need to kill him before he starts running into these over and over again, or else we're not going to be able to overcome 3 blanked trap cards. On our turn, we're going to draw into a Blazing, and I think, well, this is probably good enough to warrant placing it in my final spell and trap card zone. He passes back once again, and we draw into a Ceasefire. I figure this is good enough to flip up a Secret Barrel for. We'll do 22 and set the Ceasefire, and maybe have lethal next turn. On his turn, he draws into a Tribute Lanius, and I'm thinking, oh shit, now's when we're going to start seeing Raid Raptor Readinesses. So we need to kill him now. Let's flip up the Just Desserts and the Ceasefire in order to do 2,000 and then an additional 500, because remember, it doesn't count Ojama tokens, followed by the Secret Barrel for, I believe, 24? Yes. So we're 900 off lethal, which can be solved with his Blazing Mirror Force. He's going to activate the Readiness, go into battle phase, attack, I activate Blazing Mirror Force, and what do you know? That's exact lethal. Our second match is up against Synchron, and really, this is the reason to play this deck. I mean, God, our opponent is probably a 140 IQ Mensa member with hopes and dreams. He's probably spent the last 3 years of his life memorizing the systematic and involved combos that are necessary in order to be the best Synchro player in the universe, and he's about to get blown out by a couple of Wabakus and a Secret Blast. Let's go ahead and start the replay. He activates Tuning in order to add a copy of Jet Synchron to his hand and mills the top card of his library, which just so happens to be White Dragon Wyverbuster. He's going to follow that up with a Foolish Burial, sending a Dandelion, which gets him the 2 Fluff tokens, which are just adorable on YGO Pro. Look at those fuckers. Afterwards, he's going to send the Jet Synchron from his hand to the graveyard to special summon this Quick Draw Synchron, immediately special summoning the Jet Synchron back by sending the Doppel Warrior in his hand, then tuning into Formula Synchron. Afterwards, he's going to draw a card, special summon White Dragon Wyverbuster, go into Coral Dragon, activate White Dragon's effect to add the Black Dragon to his hand, then go into Crystal Wing, Synchro Dragon's little brother, Clearwing. After he's done that, he's going to draw the card off of Coral Dragon, and of course, it's Soul Charge. I've never met a Synchro player who did not open this card, but against this deck, I'm already seeing life point loss. So he's going to pick 2 cards, which is a cool 2,000 off of his life points. He's going to get Axel Synchron and the 2 Fluff tokens. Once again, oh my god, just look at those little beauties. Then he's going to Synchro summon the one, the only Trishula, and banish this Wabaku out of our hand. So I'm feeling okay. I actually think this is lethal. So we're going to go ahead and activate this Pot of Duality, and I find a Ring of Destruction and think, oh god, this is definitely lethal. We just have to order it correctly. So of course, the first thing we do is order it incorrectly. We're going to Ring of Destruction first, targeting this Trishula, just because I think I'm so happy that I get to actually activate Ring of Destruction on a Trishula that I had to do it. We both go down 2,700. He's at 3,300. He's going to Tuning for a Junk Synchron. And I'm like, oh, thank God he summoned something so I can still win this game. We flip up a Secret Blast, a second Secret Blast, and a Ceasefire, which does 15, 9, and 9 for exact lethal. Well guys, it's 2017, and what would this be without the obligatory Zodiac game? Thankfully, this is at least an interesting Zodiac variant. It's got Metal Foes in it. I mean, that's cool, right? Certainly more fun than just making kaiju over and over. I've actually seen some success with these types of builds, and I hope they continue to proliferate. They're very, very fun. We've opened pretty poorly. We have, of course, the Magician of Faith with absolutely no spells in our hand, but we do have Maxi versus Zodiac on the draw, so that's something. He's going to go ahead and go first, make Thoroughblade, make Wild Bow, and I go, oh shit! I was supposed to Maxi. Okay, I'm fine. Let's go ahead and activate it now. He's going to take the challenge, summon twice, and I think, well, why don't you just summon a third time and make Trident? Or, I don't know, maybe just make Trident instead of Tiger Mortar. Whatever. He's going to set one and pass it back to me. I have a couple of creatures in my hand, which I don't like to see. Let's go ahead and see if this Desires can find us anything. Well, regardless, a Desires is a pretty good target for Magician of Faith, but unfortunately we have a pretty big Nombo insofar as we've drawn into Ceasefire, which kind of screws with how we want this to work since it doesn't activate flip effects. We have 5 cards, which means this Chain Strike is going to hit like a truck, and at the very least, we're going to be able to do a lot of damage, and this Balance of Judgment can get us back into the game. So he's going to activate Tanky, use Bullhorn to get a copy of Rat Pier, activate Viper to put itself onto Bullhorn, set Scales, normal summon 1, and then immediately go out of his main phase in order to force my hand. I do get my hand forced, and I flip everything, doing 1,000, 2,000, some more, nothing, and 5 chains worth of Chain Strike damage. So we're going to go ahead and do 2k, 1k, 1k, 18, and he concedes. So we're back with the deck, and I kind of have blue balls after that last match. I thought there was a little bit of game left. Anyway, I'm kind of on the fence about the strategy. Certainly Chainburn feels strong. I've been playing the deck on and off for about 5 years now, and this is the best it's ever felt. However, the Magician of Faiths, while cute and innovative, were probably not very good. They're either getting back a Chain Strike, which you don't really want to see after you've set up a big Chain Strike chain, or they're getting back draw spells, and as anyone who has activated 2 copies of Pot of Desires in a 40-card deck in one duel can tell you, they're not great in multiples. Best case scenario, you're probably getting 2 copies of Card of Demise, but even then, you're either clogging your spell and trap card zone or leaving yourself open to giant Twin Twister plays, all because you are relying on your opponent to attack into a flip effect monster. Doesn't seem particularly reliable. I would probably take them out and put in more copies of damage-dealing traps. A third Blazing Mirror Force might go pretty far, as well as a couple copies of Dimensional Wall, if people start playing big, beefy dudes once again. I would definitely advise against playing a third copy of Absolute King Backjack. He was cloggy at 2, even though I was using him as discard fodder for Card of Demise, and at 3, I can guarantee you 3 of them would show up in your opening hand every game. All in all, Chainburn is a really fun archetype for exactly one person at the table, and I urge you to be that person. Hell, if you're on a budget, you can even take out the Pot of Desires. It's one of the worst cards in the deck, especially if you're taking out the Magician of Faiths. Just sleeve this sucker up, go to the locals, and be the evil you want to see in the world. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed another fun and interactive 3 games with Mono Blue Tron. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9:30 Eastern Standard Time to noon. I'll be on hiatus for the next 2 weeks as my computer is in the shop, but hopefully I will be able to return to streaming immediately after that and fulfill your deepest, darkest desires on TV. Additionally, if you have an idea for a deck or archetype you'd like to see on this show, let me know in the comment section below and I will do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, I'll see you Thursday.